Well, if Malcolm X were alive today, what would he be saying about the Florida and Georgia gubernatorial races, for governor? Now, I'm going to tell you, this guy, I respect this guy quite a bit, tell you the truth. I don't like Martin Luther King. And the reason is I very much know that the big established money in media was behind Martin Luther King. Notice what's going on in history, though, today. Malcolm X was always out in the news media way back in the 60s, but today he's like getting pushed back into the dustbins of history books. You hardly hear about him, right? Because there's a lot of things he said that were actually hitting a nail on the head. Now, I know he was an angry individual about a lot of things that happened to him and actually a lot of things that were going on. And some of his, he actually probably should have been allying more with the people that weren't black, like people like me that are white that are trying to fight the powers too. I'm like, I'm not on the side of the bad guys. But he would have dropped a lot of dimes on what's going on with the gubernatorial races with Florida and Georgia because, billionaires like Soros and other billionaires who control politicians like puppets are very much interfering in a democratic process of getting a governor elected for Georgia and Florida. Now, I know what's going to happen with the black vote. They're going to mainly vote for Andrew Gillum and Stacey Abrams, Andrew Gillum in Florida. And me putting out this video is not going to change nothing in a short period of time. I mean, I personally, if I was running a public, and I'm not a diehard Republican. I'll tell you what, I can't stand Rick Scott. But, unfortunately, he's running for senator, and he's a big crook. What the Democrats say about Rick Scott is absolutely correct. When they're giving him criticizing Rick Scott, the Republican, how he's just helping his big money people that are around him, and Rick, I put stuff out on him before. You could look up what it was about Rick Scott. I can't stand this guy. But DeSantis is actually going to be like many steps better than Rick Scott. At least he's I don't know if there's corruption on him or what. It's nowhere near as bad as Rick Scott. But really bugged me about Andrew Gillum is that he's been getting big money from the billionaires. And this is exactly what Malcolm X pointed out. They put some black man up there and the big money behind the scenes. He says the ones like Malcolm X, and actually he got the name, X. His name is Malcolm Little, but he says some blue-eyed devil white man gave me this name, Little. I don't know what my name is, so my last name is X. Which is it's just freaking slick. I mean, that's pretty smart. I mean, I that's good to go. That's definitely good to go. But he would be Malcolm X would be tearing this guy up, Andrew Little and also Stacey Abrams, because the end result is they're for themselves and they're paid. They're not Uncle Tom's. They're Uncle Soros's. That's what the hell they are. That's why you don't see too much on Malcolm X today. He's actually not everything he says is right because he's so pissed off about things. Malcolm X was so pissed off about things. He goes too far on a lot of stuff too. That's the thing. Now I tell you the truth. I feel if Andrew Gillum got it in Florida and Stacey Abrams got it in Georgia, I'd feel worse for George. This lady, if she was anorexic, I'd probably like her better. She looks like she eats too many donuts or something. I don't know. YouTube's going to not like that because I'm bullying her. I'm not bullying her, but she just, I don't know. There's something about this lady just, I don't get pissed off at Andrew Gillum when I see him on a media or nothing. I know the deal is, but I get pissed off at this one. Oh, God. What a mouth. But the end result is going to be the same. Like Clinton's, they played like they're for the black people. And, Hillary would be going around, acting one way in front of one audience and acting one way in front of another audience. And, she overwhelmingly got the black vote. Now, here you got Soros in the middle, and here's Hillary Clinton. And here you got I think it's the president or one of the leader of Haiti. And you know what happened with all the money that was supposed to go to Haiti, right, from the Clinton Foundation? I'm laughing, but you know what happened, right? It didn't go there. And, the Haitian leaders said, we got these people just told us to go to hell. They got all the money. Now, that's probably what's going to happen if Andrew Gillum and Stacey Abrams get into office. You know, they're gonna sell out every single black voter that voted for him. Am I worried about that? Not really, because, you know, it's probably going to come less on me than the people that supported this guy. Like I said, I can't. You know, it's really screwed up. The elections are really screwed up, man. It bugs the hell out of me the fact you got so much money influencing elections. You know, Andrew Gillum might not make it, neither does Stacey Abrams or whatever, Abrams, right? Whatever the hell his name is. Because maybe people are starting to be aware that George Soros is behind it. But I'm not really sure how many of the black people realize that this guy is behind him. This guy. And not just him, but other billionaires. You know, Malcolm said the ones that you can't trust the most are usually these white liberal types, the ones that are communist leaning and socialist leaning. Those are the ones you can't trust the most, the ones that are acting like your friend. That's why, you know, that's why they don't like having, you know, you don't hear too much about this. You don't hear much about Malcolm X anymore. I mean, I know he's too radical in some things. He gets a little too bent out of shape because he's pissed off. And I think his father was killed by white guys. And that gives him a reason to be permanently pissed off. And, you know, I'm not going to blame him. I'm never going to blame him for that, you know. But, you know, he's been right on a lot of things. And this guy, I personally think, you know, well, I know Martin Luther King was pushed by the white establishment in the Northeast and the white media. And, you know, he's the big name out there. Which tells, you know, there's a lot of stuff on him. Yeah, I mean, you can dig up dirt on everybody. I mean, you can dig up dirt on George Washington, too. But, you know, the deal is, you can dig up dirt on JFK. Actually, Malcolm dug up dirt on JFK. They were making political deals where JFK would act like he was the savior of the black people, and his opposing partner was not. And then they were playing games just for the public audience. Actually, Malcolm recognized that, which, you know, everybody pretty recognizes, that the media can freaking totally sway opinion. And that's what they do with propaganda and brainwashing. This guy, I think, although he had flaws, he was really coming from the heart, you know. Just that some of his life experiences kind of made him an angry individual, did make him an angry individual. But if he was alive today, he would be exposing the Soros, you know, and the other billionaires that are supporting Andrew Gillum and Stacey Abrams, whatever her name is. God, Abrams, right? You know, for what the deal is. That you just fronts for the freaking powers. Which, you know, it's screwed up because, you know, I can't stand this guy Rick Scott, man, but it's like, I'm looking at the Senate political race between Scott and Nelson. God, it's like, I hate voting for this guy Scott. I'm going to say this, man. I'm going to write this Scott guy a letter. I voted for you, but you are a crook. Maybe you'll freaking have a drone come after me or something. But you know what I mean? Nelson was worst. They're really screwed, man. You know, in a lot of ways, Malcolm X is kind of taking the embodiment of, you know, what the American Revolution was about. Although he's gotten focused in on certain things that, you know, I don't know. And to tell you the truth, I think Martin Luther King was killed by the government. I think after a while we're starting to wake up to get a more broad-based group of individuals, you know, marching on in Washington, D.C. They were using, I think what was going on with Martin Luther King, the social engineering powers were using him up to a point, and, you know, after he started really getting too big, they knocked him out. You know, I think that's the case. Well, I think that's the case with a lot of freaking people. Actually, JFK and Bobby Kennedy. I don't buy into who exactly. Well, JFK is pretty obvious, But any politician that actually is really honest is gonna have his life is going to be in danger. Not just getting no financial support. That's why you only get sellouts in politics. And that's why you really got to whittle down the size of the government. That's really the solution. It's not who's in charge. It's the fact that the government gets too much money. You wouldn't have people like trying to get in these positions if it didn't mean so much, not just to them, but to their backers. Why the hell would Soros wouldn't give anybody they always play like they're philanthropists, but they wouldn't give anybody any money if they weren't getting something in return. Plus, so why is he giving money to Andrew Gillum and Stacey Abrams? Abrams, I believe it is, Abrams. So, the one who doesn't have a problem with anorexia, we'll put it that way. But, I don't really like that one, man. She's, I really be feeling sorry for Georgia, man. I'm not gonna, I don't know, Andrew, well, who the hell knows, man? I don't know. But, Malcolm X, I don't mind the guy too much, really, to tell you the truth. Even though, he's pretty radical, but I don't mind the guy too much. He was, and this is why they don't want you to, they don't put him on, they don't really have this guy around that much, like in the history books as much. They don't tell you all the stuff he said. There's a lot of stuff he said that's pretty much dead on balls accurate. Although, like I said, he was an angry guy. He was an angry individual, It's like you can't always fight physically over some crap because that's all you're going to be doing. You're going to be tearing down stuff instead of building stuff. So he was pissed off at a lot of stuff. I think he had a right to be in a lot of ways because of what happened to his father, which I don't blame him for ever having a permanent attitude due to that fact. But I think this guy was intelligent and he was on a ball. And if he was alive today, I don't know what the hell. It's like if you don't vote for Andrew Gillum or Stacey Abrams, what her name is, the other person's not going to be really that great anyway, So, but he would have warned, about the deal because this is what's been going on all along. And actually, if you look at what happened in the South after the war between the states, if you want to call it that, it was money from the northeastern oligarchs that were coming down here and using the blacks to be in charge of certain things in the government, so that they would be tools of the money. These blacks would just be tools of the big money powers, and that actually created a lot of friction between the white Southerners and the blacks that were put in these positions by these white Northerners. It's not exactly the way they have it in history books. You know what I mean? Like, in other words, animosity doesn't just come out of nowhere. Guys like Soros, he's smart. He's smart. He's evil, but he's smart. He's definitely smart. And there's not much you can do about it. A lot of this stuff, man, I can't really tell you that. If you don't vote for Andrew Gillum or Stacey Abrams or whatever, the world is going to be fine. The world's not going to be fine. Because behind the scenes, you always got these big money crooks. But, I kind of like this Malcolm X guy, though, to tell you the truth. I kind of like this guy. I don't like Martin Luther King. I don't like him. I'm just being honest. I'm not going to freaking BS around it. I think Martin Luther King was kind of like something pumped up by the big established media and education. He wasn't really what the hell, they're making him out to be today. This guy, like Malcolm X, although he's flawed and he's got problems, he's a little too angry, that was really mainly his problem. But, that's not because of him. It's because of what happened to a lot of things. But this guy is far more legit, and he's actually exposed a lot of different angles about, how things really work. That's why they don't want the public knowing too much about this guy. This is why this guy's being pushed more and more to the dustbins of history, and you don't hear too much about him. because he's not helping. Malcolm X is not helping the real power behind the scenes. He's working against the real power against the scenes. I'm not saying now Malcolm's perfect, but he's more on the ball. A lot of stuff. Me, I'm on the ball. I'll tell you what, I know what's going on. That's why I recognize that Malcolm was a pretty good guy. This Andrew Gillum, he's a sellout to Soros, and so is this, what's her face, Stacey Abrams. And I'll tell you what, I'm sure there's connections with with DeSantis, but compared to Rick Scott, holy smokes, Rick Scott is horrible. But, it's like, how is there something worse than horrible? Yeah, there is stuff worse than horrible. I really do hate politics, man. They got to start getting the government whittled down a way, way a lot. And the only way to limit government is to actually cut down the taxes. That's one thing I don't like about this Andrew Gillum. He's going to raise taxes. We don't need that. We don't need that. That's not good. That's not good. Because usually what happens when you raise taxes, it just goes into the elite's hands. So anyway, I don't know. I don't know what I did with this video here. It's more like, I'm just pointing an angle out on something because, everybody's starting to notice that Soros is behind Gillum and Abrams and all this, these other billionaires. And unfortunately, the black vote is going to overwhelmingly go to the two black candidates for governor in Florida and Georgia. And just like those guys you're voting for, they're going to be the ones selling you out the most. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about it. But just trying to tell you, man. But I'm going to have 300 views on this thing, and it's like, how many people I reach anyway? It's not going to be, if I even have 300 views. But if the Republicans were serious about winning an election, which tells me maybe this whole thing's rigged, is that they would put billboards out with Soros with the puppet strings over Andrew Gillum and Stacey. They would. And I don't like Republicans. And to tell you the truth, I'm very suspicious of Donald Trump too. I mean, compared to everything else out there, he's probably better, but I don't know. I don't really trust the whole situation. I think we're being played with many different games. Many psychological games too. And one of the big masters of that game is Soros, man, big time. And they played a lot of psychological games with Malcolm X too. That's why he was an angry guy. He was an angry guy. And you know what? You can't help not be an angry guy if you're put in a situation, man. If you're put in a situation where it's fight or die, you're gonna fight or die, right? One or the other. I mean, I respect this guy. I really do. I like this guy. I mean, I don't agree with everything he says 100%, no way. But a lot of stuff he says is exactly what I'm saying, too. Like if I was black and I was putting this message out in a black tongue and all that kind of stuff, I'd probably reach a lot of black people. But, I don't know. That's another angle, too, I got to be one of the guys to do the stuff, But the thing is, I respect this guy. I think a lot of black people, they probably do. Maybe they do or maybe they don't. But think of what Malcolm X would be thinking about, with, like Obama was another guy that was put up by the white establishment. And George Bush was a freaking evil, I don't know, man. That's why Trump looks so good compared to all these other guys, but I don't really trust that guy either. Like I said, it really comes down to it's like the government gets way too much money from us, the people. And they got the power of creating money. And, right now, who owns the government is a select few of oligarchs, financial oligarchs. We actually got a system of an oligarchy system ruled by the few, but they're mega wealthy capitalists or whatever you want to call them. But it's still ruled by the few. That's why I totally disagree with Malcolm when he talked about communism, because communism, even though it's supposedly different from the American way, well, in effect, it's ruled by the few, and what's going on in America right now is ruled by the few. Originally, when most of the economy in the United States was the citizen, farmer, soldier, then it was more ruled by the people. Although not perfect, it was closer to a government of laws in a constitutional republic. Except, of course, for the black people, didn't have that, at their disposal. But even in the South, not that this, the South was a mixed bag. But if I go on a tangent, before, the war between the states, the South was a mixed bag. As a matter of fact, in a lot of the laws in some of the states, like in Virginia, when they had slavery, they said that they had the rights to the labor, but they didn't have the rights to the person. That's how they differentiated with the law. It wasn't exactly as rigid as Hollywood makes it sound. And actually, if you look at what happened in the South to the blacks, I don't know if Malcolm ever mentioned this, but basically, the blacks that came here to America were originally enslaved by other blacks who were selling them for profit, and there was slavery in Africa. Well, there's slavery everywhere in the world, and the most atrocious treatment that came from white Americans was from the Northerners who brought them over in the ships. That's where the big death rate was. In the South, it was kind of like closer to a caste system, because a lot of the blacks were part of the family. That's how it was prior to the war. There wasn't hatred. Actually, the war caused, and the northern policies caused a lot more problems later on. And believe it or not, Jim Crow, with the Jim Crow laws, Jim Crow was a northerner. He was not a southerner. So, I don't know if Malcolm brought this stuff out. I don't know if he knows all that, if he knew all that stuff, but he did bring out a lot of stuff. And there's a lot of angles to things that people wouldn't expect. I don't know if YouTube's going to like this video. I'm not sure, man. But I figured I'd put this out here because, I'm not, I know some people that are white, they're getting all bent out of shape about Stacey Abrams and Andrew Gillum because they're communist liberals to the max. But I'm not worried about it because I know what's going to happen. It's not going to really go on the whites as much as the blacks that actually voted for these guys. And I'm like, do whatever you want. I'm warning you, man. These guys are your worst enemy. They got your same color skin, but they're your worst enemy. They're your worst enemy going, man. Because you're not voting for Andrew Gillum or Stacey. You're voting for George Soros. That's who you're voting for. That's who you're actually voting for. And how many times did Malcolm X warn people about this stuff? And people still doing the same stupid thing over and over again. You know what's going to happen? The same result. So, anyway, get my 3 views, get it out to 3 people, let them know, see what happens, man. I'm not worried about it, tell you the truth. I know I'm voting for Rick DeSantis, whatever. I hate voting for Rick Scott. What is his name? What's his DeSantis' first name? I'm voting for this guy, I don't really, I know, I saw the positions, what they have with, different things. Gillum's a Soros liberal to the max. I said, forget about that guy. But like I said, I really feel bad for Georgia if Stacey Abrams gets in, man. That one looks like a real, oh boy, big time problem lady. Kind of lady you wouldn't want to be in the same house with. But I look at it like this. It's not going to affect me that much. Not really. What am I to do about it, right? I don't know, Malcolm. Nobody listened to you, man. That's the problem.